I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi, everybody. It's Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Welcome to another podcast. Today's guest is Donna. Donna's a friend of mine, and she's also a beautiful lady carrying the message of recovery. So, Donna, what's your story, mate?
Hi, Ron. First of all, thanks for asking me to come and do this. I've been watching the previous podcasts and, it's really inspirational. And it's another way to share the message to let me know that I'm not alone. I always connect with the stories that you've been sharing on here. So thank you for asking me. My story, I started using when I was quite young. For a lot of years, I thought it was just social. I did that normal teenage stuff, just like my friends did. I probably blacked out a bit more than them, but I didn't see any issue with it. As I got into my late teens, I noticed it was starting to get more heavy. I was always the last one to leave, the one rocking up with drugs, and I just wanted it to keep going. That sort of caused, in the early days, sort of no legal issues or stuff like that for me, but I started seeing the breakdown in my relationships, and just that self-esteem for myself. It was starting to go down. In hindsight, it was going down then. I tried to do the old escape thing and thought, all right, if I just get this next job, I won't use as much, I'll just settle down. So I got into the airlines and I was doing long haul flying for a lot of years. And it was the worst thing I ever did. It just really promoted, I guess, that lifestyle promoted for me. I was like a kid in a candy store. Half the time I was so high, I'd miss flights. I didn't know what country I was in, who I was using with. But I was able to sustain that job. So I still kept in that sense of denial that there's really nothing wrong. Like, I'm doing a lot of illegal stuff as my drug use got more and more. So, I did the geographical, and I decided to marry someone I didn't know that long, and I moved to Florida. It seemed like a really good idea at the time. I was there for about a year, and we had a child together. And sadly, my addiction was so bad by that stage. I was actually using while I was pregnant, and for the first 9 years of my son's life. The first 9 years of his life are a blank to me. Obviously my husband, or my ex-husband now, he couldn't take it. He put me into a lot of different treatment facilities over in Florida. I went all throughout the States, actually, trying to get clean. But once I'd found that crack cocaine, that was it. Like, I class myself, I'll use anything and everything, whatever will just sort of numb me and take that away. But once I found crack cocaine, I just started getting one arrest after another. My marriage broke down, and they finally deported me. So, I can remember when I was sitting in court, here I am. I used to be a flight attendant. People thought I was living this great life, and I had such a fall from grace. I'm sitting in jail after assaulting a police officer and watching the video in court, and I didn't recognise that feral cat that was going off on that video. I just didn't. I just didn't recognise myself. So I came back home to Australia and went into treatment. I did a longer term treatment this time, and I got clean. It just never lasted long for me, Ron. Like, I'd get a couple of years up, and then I'd substitute. Like, I've tried every scenario that I hear in every meeting I ever go to. Like, if I just drink, or if I just drink with people and not alone, if I just have pharmaceutical medication, it's still legal. I tried everything, trying to kid myself that I still wasn't an addict, even though I had all that evidence. And it just broke me. I guess, like, for me, addiction has also really affected, I do talk openly about this when I do go to meetings, because it's just my story. But My heavy drug use did create, I was diagnosed with a mental illness as well. So I sit in recovery. I call it a dual recovery because I have to sort of try and maintain a healthy mental health and stay clean, and like I can be off the drugs for years, but my mental health, if I don't get regular blood tests or go off my medication, it's like I'm still using. I've had my time in mental health units as well. So, I started realizing I'm going for the trifecta. The next one will be death for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't see another out, so I just keep, I just keep slogging along. I guess I keep learning as I go. I make a lot of fuck ups. I guess I just wake up each morning and I try to the best of my ability to do my 12-step program, and it's the best results I've had so far. So just for today, I'm clean and sober, and that's all. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, no, cool. I got clean originally in 1981. And the 12-step program that was around those days was AA, that was predominantly, there was a small part of NA around, but I went through that not wanting to be an addict, even though the funny part was when I was a junkie, I was quite proud of the fact that I was a junkie, in the 70s, I'm a couple of months older than you. In the 70s when I was using, Mick Jagger, Lou Reed, fucking everybody, Cream, like Eric Clapton, everyone was on heroin, it was fashionable.
Yeah.
They sang songs about it. When I put a spike in my vein, things aren't quite the same. And we were attracted to that rock and roll era of Pink Floyd. And I wasn't a big fan of hallucinogenics. I liked heroin. I was my drug of choice, But that's how it started. But in the end, I had no drug of choice.
Yeah.
And I really thought the drug was the problem, same as what you talked about in my relapses. I thought, alcohol's not really my problem, so I'll drink alcohol. And I drank alcohol and got arrested that day stealing a car and then stealing a police car.
Same result, isn't it? Regardless of if it's any substance.
Yeah. And then what happened for me was I got into a long-term rehab. And they talked about God and stuff that I just didn't want to know about. That's being honest. As soon as they said the word God, I was like, oh, fucking
out of there.
Not me. This is not my go, and tambourine banging, and I've always thought of religion as a rort,
Yeah.
Fucking the biggest property developers in the world was the Catholic Church, And people was sitting out the front starving to death. And I thought, because I was such, ignorant and arrogant towards religion or politics of any type, because I was just lost in this world. But something you touched on was I remember in 1981 when I got clean, I'd come out of prison, and I talk about this, and people don't understand it. What happens to us is so slow and so progressive that we don't actually notice.
No.
And in 1981, I went from jail to a rehab, and I was having a shave. The first shave I'd had, not because in prison you don't have mirrors. You didn't those days. You had stainless steel plates screwed into the wall, and you really couldn't see yourself because it was scratched. People had scratched. So I hadn't seen my face for probably 10 years since I started injecting. And I remember having my first shave in the rehab and looking in the mirror and freaking out.
Yeah.
Thinking, who's this guy?
Yeah.
The deadness in my eyes was out of control because I was, I thought I was a handsome young boy, and I had all the girls, and I had a really good world. Like as far as physically, I was really fit. I could fight, I could box, I could swim, I could dive, I could do gymnastics. I could do everything, and I was really popular with the girls. And all of a sudden, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, "Who the fuck are you?" It actually scared me.
Well, and it's quite shocking. I can really relate to that. Just, I guess, what addiction took out of me. That physical aspect. Like I talked about my mental, but and it's just like time just flew by. Like I'm telling myself I've only been using for a year, and it's been like 20 years. Like, of course I've aged, and it just kept getting worse. And I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. It was the depths of despair that I went to and the things I did while I was in addiction. I just didn't want a mirror.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy how, we always talk about the emotional and spiritual decay.
Mm,
Physical decay with me was the first thing I noticed was the physical decay. I'd become an older man. I was still young. I was 27,
mm,
but I was dead,
yeah,
emotionally and spiritually dead. I remember looking in my eyes and thinking, "Fuck, man."
yeah.
And then I was in that rehab, and they voted me the most likely not to get clean.
Oh, really?
160 residents. They had used to have house groups,
Yeah.
and they had a. It was really funny. They had this. Who's the hottest chick in the whole program? And who's the hottest guy in the whole program? And they used to have these silly votes like that. And this girl named Lee was voted the hottest chick in the program, and I was voted one of the hottest guys in the program.
Mm.
And then they said to Lee, "You'll end up with Ronnie." And Lee came from a middle class, upper class family. She said, "No way, I won't be that guy, you know."
Yeah.
They're my 40-year-old twin daughters. That's the mother. That's the mother of the 40-year-old twin daughters.
Oh, that's funny.
So we hooked up in that rehab in 1981. And she had twin girls to me in 1982.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
But
like, no way, I won't be with that guy.
but you just mentioned something there, like Lee grew up in an upper class family. Like, what addiction has also taught me is it comes in all shapes and sizes. Like, I may not have, come from a broken home, or I had a mum that drank heavy, but compared to other stories I've heard, I've thought, oh, I haven't had it so bad, but I was still dropping in my bathroom. Like, I'm living in a beautiful home in South Florida, and I was more times in ER than what I was out. I was just very good at putting up this front, which to me I find more dangerous. I'd rather be looking like, all right, hey, this chick needs help. But it scares me how we can become so deceitful and
All due respect, you are very good at putting up a front.
absolutely. I'm the queen of fronts,
Yeah,
Ron.
I know, I love that.
And front doors here.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But,
Dangerous.
but you know what I love about you? You can put up a front, that. But when the shit is the fan, you do fucking put your hand up and go, "No, mate, I'm fucked. I've had it."
Yeah. I've had to do that walk of shame more than once.
I don't think it's called a walk of shame. I think it's called a walk of education.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as a walk of shame. I don't.
No wonder I didn't go to college. Sorry.
I rang someone this morning who's in hospital.
Yeah.
Just OD last week.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, "Mate, don't think about other people thinking bad about you, because they're not."
Yeah.
I said, "Don't think you failed because you haven't." So the only time you fail is when you give up.
Yeah.
You just don't fucking give up.
Yeah.
I said, "You need to come pick up and take you to meet and ring me up.
Yeah.
I'll come and get you."
I know my last relapse, and having to walk, like, it kept me out for about a year because, I'd already had NA in my blood, and it was just that what I perceived as shame to walk in it, and I had no ability to say I need help.
Yeah. To me,
and when I did, walking in that door, I can still remember the exact venue that I went to on the sunny coast. I cried like a baby, and I just said, I need help. And I've never felt such relief in my life.
I learned from my last relapse was in 1985, and I came back, and I learned an incredible. That's when I got this new sponsor that I've had now for 36 and a half years, and he explained to me that the nature of the addiction is total self-centeredness. So all those people you think are thinking about you are not, they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And it made sense. I thought, fuck yeah. Yeah. Because it was all about me. And he said, "Mate," they'll all say, "Oh, good to see you back." He said, "Mate, tomorrow they won't even remember you back."
Yeah.
Now, the funny part is, because I've been around the fellowship for 41 years, but I've been clean 36 and a half years, the guys I got clean with 41 years ago, they don't recognise my bust, like mentally. "Oh, yeah. What, you 42 this year, mate?" And I go, "No, I relapsed." "Oh, fuck, I forgot about that."
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We were all in rehab together 42 years ago.
Yeah.
So they all forget about that. Oh, fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I go, no, mate, I relapsed in 85. Oh, shit, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And I don't see it with you even.
Yeah.
I've known you for about 9 years now, something like that. 8,
Yeah.
9 years, whatever it is. And that's what I recognise. That's how long I've known Donna. It's not the dates.
Yeah.
And I say to people, when people have a relapse, you never had a lobotomy.
Yeah.
You're starting from a place of education.
Mm.
Not starting from where you fucking started when you first walked into the recovery.
And it's so true. Like, I feel like this time around, I don't know whether it's that I've just opened my mind, the desperation to not do what I did last time. So it's just shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah.
Take, yeah, I know, out of your vocabulary, because I can be big on, oh, yeah, I know. No, you don't.
Mm.
Like, no, I don't.
I usually say that to people, I say, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Because it's really important, because we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. It's really important what we tell our subconscious mind. So all my program is dealt with the brain. I don't even talk about what drug you used. Right now, right this minute, I have a client who's an alcoholic, 49 years of age. I have a client who abuses his pain medication. He's 17 and a half. I have a client who's a big cocaine user. He's 27. Then I have another client who's 22, who's a gambler.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All that
5
brain.
clients there that have got completely different addictions. All of them have got different substance of choice, different poison. The program's exactly the same.
Yeah.
I tell them, you take the word drug out, you put down gambling. You take the word drug out, you put down alcohol. You take the word drug out, you put down cocaine.
Yeah.
I say, I don't care what your affliction is or what your poison is that you think is going to change the way you feel. The reality is you have a thinking problem. So once you put the drugs down or the chemical, whatever it is, whatever changes the way you feel, whether it's sex or what, we have to deal with your thinking. And thinking comes back, I believe, to, and I used to have doubts about this, but I'm starting to swing to more it now. There was some sort of trauma somewhere in our lives.
Absolutely. I couldn't
It
agree more.
started addiction.
Yeah.
I can see it in mine. It's easy because, I grew up in a criminal family and my man was a gangster and people being shot and handcuffed and bashed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
My father was abusive towards my mother and sexually abusive towards one of my sisters. The whole thing was bad.
Yeah.
So I can see that in myself. But then I see other people that come from middle class, nice families. I think, where's the trauma?
Yes. Yeah.
I did a podcast with a really famous bass guitarist for a famous Australian band. And in the podcast, he said something that really made me smile, but I thought about it a lot after. He said, I grew up in a middle-class Jewish family. Everything was perfect. There was never a yelling or screaming. Our house was very quiet. He said, at 14 years of age, I came home from my private school and my dad had gone.
Okay. Yeah. There it is.
So everything was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came home from school, my private school, Jewish rich school.
Yeah.
My dad was gone. He'd left the mother.
Yeah.
So he'd never heard any fighting. He'd never heard anything. But he went into fantasy and he wanted to be a rock star. And he is a rock star and a heroin addict and blah, blah. And he's in recovery. Been in recovery for 30 years now.
Yeah. Okay.
I was at his first meeting and I welcomed him and he's never forgot it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
35 years ago, at his first meeting, I went up and introduced myself, said, hello, buddy, what's your name? First meeting, yeah, welcome. And 35 years later, he never stayed clean from that first meeting. But as I said, he's over 30 years clean now. He always says, you were the first person to come up and shook my hand and said, welcome. He said, we take that for granted.
Yeah.
We take that for granted. We don't remember that. I have so many people come up and say to me, oh, you spoke to me at such and such a convention, or you spoke to me here, or you come and did a H&I here. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. But they remember it. That's all that matters.
And I remember the first guy, the 12-step me.
Yes.
I've never seen him again, but I remember it. I thought he was an undercover copper because he knew too much about me. But what he was an addict.
Yeah.
He started telling me how I felt and how I thought. And I went back to the yard because I was in prison. I got 12 steps from prison to go to rehab. And I said, fuck, he's good, this cop. I said, he's good, this guy. I said, he's fucking good. He knows everything about me, this guy. And the funny part was, it's a true story, Don. I went back to the yard because I was trying to get to rehab to run away. I wasn't trying to get to rehab to go to get clean.
Yeah.
I'd already escaped from prison, so I was an escapee, so they weren't going to let me get into anywhere I could escape.
Yeah.
I thought I'll get bailed to the rehab and I'll escape from the rehab. I went back to the yard and I said, mate, is there any junkies in the yard here? And this one guy put his hand up. I said, mate, tell me how I can pretend to be a junkie so I can get this 12-step thing going.
Oh,
I was a little bit confused.
but you know, it was like when I first, like I can remember when this was many years ago, and living in America, and like over there in the jail system, they have the substance abuse program, so the SAP program. So, and like, you know, they had the 12-step fellowship NA coming in there like every day, and that was like a, you know, while I wasn't ready to hear the message, I can relate to that, just that, you know, that first exposure and, oh, wow, like what's going on here? Because you could really align with what they were saying, and it freaked me out. Like I ran for the hills as soon as I got out. I was in the crack den by within an hour of leaving, you know what I mean? But it was that fear of, hang on, there's something there, but I'm just not ready.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Which was one of our defects of character from the time we could probably walk.
Yes.
I talk about that fear to clients. I had an unfounded fear my whole life.
Yeah.
Now, when I'd hear my father's car come up the street, I'd go into fear. I wouldn't know if he was going to be a good dad or a bad dad.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether he'd won at the races or lost the races. So my dad didn't drink. He didn't drink. He hates drugs and he hates tattoos.
Yeah.
I'm a junkie with a full bodysuit. You know, I rebelled against him. You know, in retrospect, I see what happened.
Yeah.
I've done so much work on myself over the last 41 years. I understand exactly. But you know what, mate? Honestly, it doesn't matter. It's what I do today that matters.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is what we do today.
Yeah.
Our whole program, for me, is based around today. If I want to change tomorrow, what I do today is going to govern what happens in the future. What I did in the past is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now, for people that are really God-fearing and God-loving people and that, and they talk about this God of Almighty and that, I say, okay, I respect that. I really do. And if that's their God, wonderful. And you know what? I wish I had that God. It would make things a lot easier for me. But I didn't have that God.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing about that God, even he doesn't change the past. So that must be irrelevant.
Yes. And I think that's the hardest part, Ron, when we come into recovery. You know, it is a process in itself of learning just to let it go. Like it's done and dusted. Just it's about moving forward. It's about what you, as you said, doing right now.
Yeah.
You know, but hanging on to all of that stuff, it can just, you know, I went through 3 years of it with my son, and I used to hear in the meetings, you know, the whole it's a family disease, and I used to go, oh, please don't let that happen to me. And lo and behold, my only child's in recovery. He's an addict.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, it's that evidence stuff, and I still find myself doing it. Once I see it with my own eyes, it cements it more. So that tells me I've still got to work on my faith and that thing with my higher power. But rather than beat myself down like I used to, I just accept, you know what, you're doing the best you can. You're trying to keep yourself accountable with your sponsor, your peers. You're doing the program to the best of your ability. You know, I used to think I wasn't worthy because I'd had so many relapses, and I used to envy. There's another one that we're good at doing, Ronnie, envy. Yep. I used to envy anyone that would come into a meeting and say, I haven't used from the day I had my first meeting. I used to sit there and go, you know, but that just wasn't my story.
Yeah. I used to be resentful too and think, I hope you bust, you fuck.
Well, actually, I was thinking that. I'm so glad you said it.
Who else I used to think, yes.
Yeah.
You're eligible too, quick. Yeah.
Oh, that is so, see, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, I was dying to say that, but I thought we're doing Ron's podcast.
No.
And you said it.
Mine's the truth about addiction, mate. That's the truth. That's how we think.
You can't get that anywhere else in the world, I swear.
Mate, that's what we think, you know?
Yeah.
My wife laughs, you know, because I get the privilege of working with people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
I walk here in the morning, some mornings in my pajamas and sit down and do a session. Rocky said to me, he goes, you know, you got it made where you just don't give a fuck anymore. I said, mate, they're not here to look at my pretty blue eyes. They're here to listen to what I've got to say to them.
That's exactly it.
And Brock's laughs. He goes, you sit there in your man night and you do fucking sessions. Clients. They're paying a lot of money.
But, you know, it is about they want to hear and they want to hear what you've got to say and learn from it. That's the beauty of, like, when you first got clean, Ron, like they didn't have Zoom and stuff like that. I sure as hell know.
We didn't have a basic text.
No, wow, see?
Oh, Donna, I'll show you something.
Yeah,
See this here?
yeah.
That is the NA basic text before it was ever printed.
Oh, wow.
1981. This is the subcommittee of the World Conference Narcotics Anonymous.
Oh, my God.
That's the first book. And it's got cut up marks where I busted and cut my gear up on it.
And there it is right there.
This is going to go into the museum.
Oh, I tell you, you need to get it into a proper cover and try and so it doesn't disintegrate.
Yeah, it just sits in a plastic cover in my office.
Yeah, cool. But that's what I'm saying. So, you know, there's that, like, I mean, really, like, I can remember when COVID first hit and I went, oh, here we go. Like, we'll lose a lot through not having face-to-face meetings. But what I found personally was it actually gave me an opportunity, or better still, no excuse.
Yep.
I was upping the ante with my step work.
Yeah.
Because I had more time and that was the focus, because we had that taken away from us.
The hour it used to take you to travel to a meeting, now you got to have another meeting.
Yeah.
I tell people you've got no excuse.
And all around the world.
Yeah, exactly. And you can go on, yeah. Something you touched on before, Donna, mental health meds.
Yeah.
When I first got clean, people were so arrogant and so fucking ignorant.
Yeah.
They said if you took your meds, it was a relapse.
Yeah, I've been told that a lot.
And it's not true.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, personal honesty is what governs recovery.
Yeah.
If I go to a hospital and I've had a bike crash, which I did have, and they're injecting copious amounts of morphine into me to kill the pain, am I using? No.
No.
No, I'm not using.
Yeah.
My disease of addiction, they say my disease doesn't know whether you're using self-administrating or being administrated by a doctor. I disagree with that. My mental health knows exactly what I'm doing.
That's exactly it, yeah.
My mental health knows. I've never come out of hospital craving drugs.
Yeah.
And I've been in there fucking 4 or 5 times with major surgeries, bad crashes, you know. Well, I was in a wheelchair for 6 months when I was 14 years clean or something like that, you know. I had a heart attack about 5 years ago. I had shoulders operations. I've had all these massive surgeries, had spinal fusion.
Yeah.
No, I'm on pain meds.
Didn't want any meds like once you left.
No.
Yeah.
I'm on pain meds now. I'm not taking today, but I've got pain meds. I hardly ever take them.
Yeah.
I take them when I have to.
When you have to, that's exactly.
And sometimes I've taken them 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
And then I stop. And I'm always, and still even today, even though I'm 36 years clean, I'm a little bit like, I wonder if I'm going to get any sort of side effect. No.
Yeah.
So it tells me that my mental attitude is going to tell me whether I'm fucking abusing them or not.
Yeah. Well, when I noticed about 2 years ago, like I started going down and I was clean, but going through a lot of mental health stuff, and I could feel myself upping the ante of how much, like, I'm not denying that you don't go there. Yep. I was able to talk to my sponsor and say, you know what, like I can see this path because it's getting so hectic up there. I just want to quiet it for a while. Well, that's what I used to do with drugs. So it's such a slippery slope. But as someone who lives with dual diagnosis, I just think we got to take the attitude of it's a relapse out of it, because that could kill me.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. He's a really famous football coach. His name was Jack Gibson. He's one of the most famous football coach in Australian history of rugby league. Unbelievable, smart man. His son came in, and I can only talk about it because his son's dead.
Yeah.
Son came into recovery in 1980, 81, 82. he was dual diagnosis.
Yeah.
Those days, all the fucking dickheads in NA told him to get off his meds.
Yeah.
He struggled for 3 or 4 years, relapsing, got on his meds, got off his meds on it, ended by killing himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
After that, I said to everybody, you have no right to diagnose. You do
No.
not have the fucking profession, the information, or the ability to tell somebody to get off their meds.
That's exactly it.
You're not a fucking psychiatrist. You're not a psychiatrist. Do not start prescribing and you should come off your meds. I get really frustrated when people say, oh, they're abusing their meds. How the fuck do you know?
Yeah.
Are you psychic?
Yeah.
This is your opinion. And my belief about opinions is that they're like arseholes. Everyone's got one. And most of them stink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's your opinion. Keep it to yourself. If I don't ask you for your opinion, fucking don't give it to me.
Don't give it. Yeah.
When people ask me for advice, I say to them, are you sure you want me to answer that question?
Yes.
Even my ex-wife once asked me, are you having an affair? I said, you really should think about that question. I said, I will, because I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
One thing about me is I tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I've always told the truth. I've never pretended to be something I'm not. I'm not a
Yeah.
fucking, you know, I'd rather you put a gun in my head and rob me than sneak in my house and steal my TV.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
I've got more respect for somebody who tells me the truth and fucking is upfront about what they're doing and sneak around like a little rat in the night and rip me off, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it's really important to stress that to people who might be listening to this podcast that because you're on medication doesn't mean that you're abusing it. Even if you take a little bit more one day than the next, it doesn't mean that you're busted.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. To me, that's setting yourself up for failure.
And what's frustrating, Ron, is, you live with the stigma of being an addict, and you also live with the stigma of having a mental illness. And when that one safe place that we've got, which is our meetings, our 12-step program, when you start getting judgments there, we've run out of options of where to go.
But I think you should understand, and I think everyone should understand, those 12-step programs are not a better mental health. So really, their opinion is not really relevant.
Yeah.
It's what you think.
Yeah.
That's why I say when I know when I'm taking my meds, my doctor laughs his head off. He goes, "You are the worst person I've ever treated." He said, "You're supposed to be on this amount of medication. I take half what I'm prescribed.
Yeah.
If that, and I take it once, and I don't even take that. If I was to take some sort of pain medication, I'd take 130 milligram tablet in the morning, and that'd be it all day.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I suffer, don't get me wrong. And sometimes I wait too long before I actually take it. It has hardly any effect.
Yeah.
But I can live with that. I'm prepared to the balance. Now, the reason I don't take medication, and this is the honest truth, and I've spoken this with neurologists, psychologists, fucking neurosurgeons, every single person you want to talk to. Okay, the painkillers work. They do. Don't get me wrong. If I took 60 milligrams of codeine fort in the morning, 60 milligrams at lunchtime, and 60 milligrams at night, like you say, I'll be right. I won't have any pain. But when my little boy jumps in the pool and yells out, "Daddy, look at me, look at me," I also won't have any joy.
Yes, so true.
So the reason I don't take medication is because I weigh up, is the pain worth the joy? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I'll put up with the pain so I
so
can have
true,
the
Ron.
joy.
I love how you worded that then. That is so true.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm only coming up 4 years clean, and I still don't trust myself. My last relapse was pain medication, and which then led to pain medication and alcohol.
Yep.
Before I knew it, I was taking still knocks of a morning to go to work.
Yeah.
Like they're the sleepers. Like it was just insanity.
Yep.
But I might as well be back out there using if I go down that path.
Yeah, and as I said, I've really, I've battled with this because I completely, and I spoke to my, I'm 36 years clean. I still speak to my sponsor on a weekly basis. Hello, mate, how are you?
Yeah.
If I've got any big decisions to make, I still run it past him.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. About 4 months ago, my wife and I had a discussion. We don't argue, we had a discussion.
Yeah.
And I said something and she got hurt by it. And I rang my sponsor up to whinge about her. And I told him everything that happened because I always tell the truth. I told him the truth. And he let me talk the truth. And then he stopped and he said, are you fucking serious? I said, what? He goes, mate, you're so fucking out of line. I'm like, what? He goes, mate, you're fucking kidding. You go and apologise and make amends and fucking you're wrong. 36 years clean.
Yeah.
And then what it was based about was my wife. My daughter was playing up really bad, my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
My wife was frustrated. She swore at her and I said, don't fucking swear at the kid, you know. And she goes, well, you look after the kid. I said, I fucking work. You look after the kid. Then Mario said, mate, you both look after the kid.
Absolutely.
And I was like, what? But my ego says I'm the breadwinner. I'm the breadwinner, you know, I'm the man of the house. Like,
And you know, you
motherfucker.
just said, Ron, you're 36 years clean, and I think it's good for all of us to remember it. You know, like it doesn't matter how clean we are, like it's that being able to take that guidance from someone other than ourselves. And you still do it with your sponsor at 36 years.
30, mate, if he tells me to do handstands, I'll do handstands.
Yeah.
Still today, if he said to me, mate, I want you to hang by your feet for 15 minutes every morning, guess who's upside down tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Because I believe he's been my spiritual guide for 36 and a half years. I wouldn't have the life I have today if it hadn't been for him.
Yeah.
He put up with me through thick and thin. He's never judged me. He came to visit me in jail and did step work with me in prison.
Yeah.
I rang him every week while I was in prison. He came to visit me once a month. He was at the gate when I got released after 8 years in prison at fucking 24 years clean, 26 years clean.
Yeah.
He was at the gate out the front with Bondi. They were both at the front gate waiting for me to get out.
Yeah.
A guy called Scotty. They took me straight to a coffee shop, filled me up full of coffee and give me a dirty, rotten iPhone with Facebook on it. And I got drove mad for the next 48 hours. The friend requested and didn't know what it was. That wasn't even around when I went away.
No.
None of that shit was around. It drove me fucking mad. And the funny part, within 12 months, I had 5,000 friends.
Yes.
I had 5 people visiting me in 8 years. Where the fuck were the other 490?
I know.
5,000 people?
It's all different, isn't it? But that's what I was saying with the computers and stuff. Like, you know, years ago, you didn't have any of this. So we are very fortunate now, rather than seeing the glass half empty. You know, I guess COVID started Zoom meetings and what have you. You know, It's all about perspective. And I could never say that if I was using.
Yeah, it's a big word.
I can't even spell my name when I'm using, Ron. How could I spell that?
That's why I used to laugh when they complain about Neil Armstrong winning fucking 8 Tour de France's when he was on drugs. I said, fucking, how can you put shit on that? I said, I couldn't even find my bike when I was on drugs. You know, like, fuck me, Dad, he won 8 Tour de France's.
Well, we were hawking it.
Yeah, exactly. It was someone else's bike anyway. It wasn't mine. You know?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Okay, you touched on your boy.
Yeah.
I have the pleasure of knowing you, young man. It's beautiful.
Yes.
He's doing really well.
Yes, he is. He's coming up. He's down in he transferred down to the Sydney Fellowship. You know, when it first all went down for him, you know, it was, I guess, as an addict myself, that moment of realization, oh fuck, here we go. It was like, you know, it was like the spit out of my mouth, and I knew we were in for a hairy ride. And you know, same thing, mental health and addiction, but, you know, watching his decline, and here I am sitting there, I'm only early recovering myself and going, now what do I do? And, you know, the best thing, I'll be forever grateful until the day I die, because what I was able to do was take a step back, allow his sponsor to be his sponsor, allow the men in that fellowship to raise him. And I could just start rebuilding that mother and son relationship.
Yeah. And you know, I've got a daughter in recovery.
Yes.
And I had to step back and let my friends take her to meetings.
Absolutely. And, you know, because we always had such a codependent, toxic thing, you know, it was him and I against the world for years, you know, because, you know, he grew up with his mum using most of his life. So he would always cover for me. Like, he knew what was in store for him. But the minute he picked up that first drug, it was on for him. Even though he'd watched his whole family get decimated, his mother get decimated through addiction. Yeah. And that's that being able to see. I was so proud of him when he did his first round of 12. And I thought, you know, for a young man, like, good on you, mate. But I just sat back and watched my son, and will continue to watch my son evolve, thanks to the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Yeah. And there is nothing else that I've got the evidence once again. Yeah. So he's sort of down, you know, he's coming up 2 years clean. He's down at uni down in Sydney. You know, he did what he was told, and you know, his first week down there, settled in, then went straight to a meeting and said, "I've just transferred from the sunny coast." And he's got a home group he goes to every week. He does service. You know, proud moments for me was a couple of weeks ago. He's messaged me, and I did the video with Messenger, and there was a young lad through his sponsor being up north. "Oh, listen, Isaac, could you go and take him out for the day from such and such? And here's my son catching 2 buses and a train," because that's what we do in our program. And I thought, man, it's just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, no, he's doing well. He's doing really well. It's a very proud moment. I did a podcast with Haley. I cried, you know, I had tears in my eyes doing the podcast with the daughter.
It's funny, unless you're a parent with a child in addiction like we've been in, and now you're seeing that generation. And I tell you, it's moments like that that remind me, if I pick up, I'll lose it all again.
In a moment.
Addiction. Sorry?
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, absolutely. But you get that pride that comes up. That
I tell people all the time, one of my philosophies is pride of achievement, achievement of pride.
Yeah.
The pride you get of working through the step, and then you achieve pride back, you know. And you know, I knock about these 8 demands that I work by all the time, you know, like these are just the recipe for living.
Yeah.
I work the 8 demands in all areas of my life.
Yeah.
In my companies, in my relationship with my wife, in the relationship with my children, in the relationship with the guy across the road. I try to be honest. I try to be reliable. You know, not try. Take that word out of my vocabulary. I am reliable. I am honest. I am respectful. And it's really nice to be able to know who you are. And we touched on self-worth before. Part of, I believe, the disease of addiction is the low self-worth.
Yeah.
And that comes from a lying mind. You know, I'm the most crude counsellor in the world. You know that. You know, like I'm straight up and down. Like, and I tell people, you know, I call my negative mind the pedophile.
Yeah.
Because it's been fucking me since I was a kid.
Absolutely.
And I say to people, would you let a pedophile live in your house? And they go, no way. I said, well, why do you let it live in your mind? And you'd be surprised how many males. It's funny, it's more the males that respond to that when I say it to them.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, fuck, yeah, I'm not letting it live in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just real.
Being able to associate.
Yeah. It's just real strong, like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm not letting that prick talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some, you know, I find alcohol users a little bit more difficult to with because alcohol is such an insidious drug. It's legal. It's socially acceptable. You can be a functioning alcoholic. You know, I've just takes me 15, 20 years to get to the same place it takes a junkie to get in 12 months.
That's exactly
But
it.
we still end up at the same address.
Yeah. I know even years of flying, you know, and we were as flight crew, we were big drinkers. But then they started breath testing us in the crew lounge.
Yeah, right.
So that was when we went over to the other gear, you know. And before that, we used to call the flight, like the pilots, Captain Jack Daniels and First Officer Jim Beam. They were more pissed than us half the time.
Exactly.
You know,
you have to do that job.
I know, but then to change, and you know, once we found cocaine, we thought this is just bliss. We've got a 14-hour flight, and we're all putting our hands up to say who's taking the trolley down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone wants to push.
And not taking up our half-hour sleep in the little capsule. We're like, no, man, we're good.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm good.
No, that's self-esteem stuff. And we come in and, you know, like I've sponsored, I've got peers and you know, see young women now in what I do. And, you know, like I'm only talking from a women's point of view, but this insidious disease just takes us to such lengths. As women, we've got to come to grips with all of that as well. Not just women, it's men too, but as I said, I only speak with, you know, and I find it comes up a lot because it certainly did for me. And, you know, being able to look myself in the mirror. I think as I got to know myself more and as I continue to working this program, I actually like who I see, but that doesn't come overnight.
Process.
Yeah.
I say to everybody, mate, slow down. It's a process.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was told a long time ago, and I didn't understand it when I was told, if you got the clarity at 10 years, if you got that at 1 year, you'd use.
Yeah. Yes.
What are you talking about, you know? I'm a genius, you know, but the truth of the matter is we are where we are because that's where we're supposed to be.
Mm,
I believe, you know, if I've handed my life over to the care of some sort of higher power, I'm
mm,
exactly where I'm supposed to be. Otherwise, I'm trying to be in control. I'm trying to be my own higher power. And I think for me, the catalyst for my whole recovery has been acceptance.
mm.
I have an old friend of mine, he's passed away a couple of years ago. His name was Andy Anderson. He was an AA member from back in the day.
Yeah.
I love Andy's story. Andy was the drunk of Cootamundra, a little country town down in northern New South Wales. Just a
Yeah.
drunk. Now, Andy was the local drunk, but he was a reporter. He'd go to do, you know, and he was a sports reporter. He'd go to the fights. He'd get into a fight at the fights. He'd go to the football and he'd get a punch on with the fucking referee on the sideline because he'd be pissed. And he tells a story that he used to have, there was a butcher in Cootamundra and Andy used to walk right around the block so he didn't have to walk past the butcher because the butcher yelled, "Ah, you fucking losing drunk, no open blood," you know, and abuse Andy.
Yeah.
Andy ended up being the mayor of Cootamundra, the editor-in-chief of the Cootamundra newspaper,
Yeah.
and died at 65 years sober.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's such a story. It's
Yeah.
such a story.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he edited my book, the book I haven't published yet because I'm procrastinating. I was going to say because I'm too busy, but I'm procrastinating. But yeah, so he was my mentor. He was my grand sponsor.
Yeah.
And now that guy was 65 years sober when he died. And he said to me, the whole thing about recovery is acceptance.
Mm.
He said, and the more meetings I do, the better my wife behaves. That used to be his joke, you know. Yeah, the more meetings I do, the more programming and meetings I do, the better my wife behaves. That was the better person he was, you know. The more meetings I do, and at the later parts of his life, you know, I used to pick up and take him to a meeting up in Budrum on a Saturday afternoon and that. But yeah, he said to me, the whole thing about recovery is acceptance.
Yes.
And he said, if you think about what's in 12-step rooms, he said, there's only 3 pieces of calico on the wall. He says, the steps, the traditions, and the serenity prayer.
Mm.
He said, so it must be pretty important. He said, because you're asking for God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Yes. Yeah.
He said that was the only other thing that was worth putting on the wall.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and when you look at the depth of despair that we go through, we have to accept that we weren't responsible for our disease, but we're responsible for our recovery.
Yeah.
We have to accept that to move forward.
Mm.
And we have to let go of our past to enjoy our future.
Mm.
I heard a story the other day. I'm a big one on little things. You know, I like things. And it says, when you're in a motor vehicle, the rear vision mirror is only that big and the windscreen's that big.
Yeah.
So it's more important where you're going, not where you've been.
Yeah. True that.
And
Yeah.
I went like, well, I like that. And he said,
I like that.
He said, the rear vision mirror is only there so you can make sure your past is not catching up to you.
Yes. And it's that stuff I love when I go to meetings and, you know, you have got old timers there. That's the stuff they come up with. That's the stuff that sticks, Ron.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I can remember actually, just quickly going back to with my son, I remember one thing I heard you say to him one night at a meeting, because, you know, he's quite an intelligent young man.
Yes. Yeah.
And just sort of talking to him around that, you know, look, intelligence has nothing to do with it, but you do have capacity to outthink yourself out of the program.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
he went over, like, just the way he would analyse, because he needed to pick everything apart.
I say I've never met anyone too stupid to get clean, but I've met a lot of people who are too smart. That's what I said to him.
Yes, you did.
That's what I said to him.
And it stuck with him, hey. And
Yeah.
it was just because that was, you know, as his mum, I'd look at that and go, oh, here we go, you know, like he's, like, you know, anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's that stuff. And that's just passed on. And I think that's the stuff we all pick up.
Simplicity of the people who've been around a long time is what I believe this program should be based on, not the philosophical bullshit.
Exactly.
I don't care how many chromosomes it kills.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't care what the fucking chemical makeup of diamorphine is or
And the brain and all that stuff.
methamphetamines damage or, and you know,
I know.
coughs and coughs. I don't give a rat's ass. I don't even care where our disease came from.
Yeah.
It was from trauma or abuse or from fucking hereditary or because I just love drugs. I don't care.
Yeah.
What I care about is how we're going to stop it.
Yeah.
And how are we going to make you start liking yourself so
Mm,
that you become a more productive human and a better partner and a better mother and a better father and a better son and a better auntie and a better uncle and just a better human.
yeah.
Because I say it all the time, I'm a human being today and not a human taking.
Yes.
Because before I was a human taking.
Yeah.
I wasn't a human being. I
No.
wasn't being anything. I was just taking. And today, now I try to give more than I take.
Yeah.
And that's the gift of recovery for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the
Absolutely.
biggest gift I've been given.
I think, early days when we come in early days and, once again, it's the process stuff, but, I'm sure many would identify with it. Early days, I'd make any excuse, listen, I've got my job now, so I can't come as much, or listen, I can't sponsor as many now because I haven't got enough time, and blah, blah, blah. I could hear myself saying it, and in my head, I'm going, just shut the fuck up. Listen to yourself right now.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you're not giving back to the program that was given to you so freely. It's just, it's an amazing process, and we couldn't, if it wasn't for people like you, Ron, I've watched you over the last 9 years just share the message with so many.
Mm.
And when I look at it, 9 years ago, it was, when did I? So 13 years ago when I went into the rehab there, and we started going to meetings, and it was nowhere near as big as it is now in that area alone. And we were talking before just around, the importance of the step work and stuff like it. It's all of that stuff that you've bought, Ronnie, and everyone recognises that. Like, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass.
No,
Evidence is evidence.
No, I think, I know what I do and I know what I don't do. And the thing that I do is I just try to keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep it real, keep it attractive.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's important for people to know that this is fun.
Yes.
And the rewards are fantastic. The rewards are phenomenal. The
Yeah.
friendships are so deep. I've got no friends from before my using in my life.
Yeah.
I have friends now that I've had for fucking 40 years.
Yes.
Derek, Frank, all the guys that I grew up with, because I grew up in NA. I grew up in recovery. I grew up in a rehab, My daughters are 40 years of age. I was born in a rehab. Their mother was in rehab when they were born, and I was back in prison, of course, because I thought I could have a couple of drinks. But that was the last time I drank. 1982 was the last time I had a beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, like the gifts that we've been given, you can't buy, you can't even imagine, you can't even fucking, my brain couldn't have fathomed the life that I have today.
No.
The love that I have in my life, the freedom, the honesty, the fucking, the peace.
Yeah.
The peace and the gratitude. Like, I am just unbelievably fucking blown away. The street kid from Fitzroy that's uneducated can stay clean, write a book, have a wife and children that aren't unafraid of him.
Yeah.
Because men were horrible people when I was a kid. All men beat their wives. All men beat their kids.
Yeah.
You run the house with 9 fists. You're seen and not heard.
Yeah.
You're fucking told. You never said, "Can I go out?" And your dad go, "No." You'd never say why. Because I fucking said so. Because I fucking said so. Be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Like today, I explained to my 3-year-old daughter when she's naughty, she's going through that stage where she's a little brat, and I say, "Honey, you're hurting my heart. If you hurt my heart, I'm going to smack you on the bum." And she, you know what she said to me? "Okay." And put her bum up.
Fiery.
No, she's like her mother. She's like her mother.
But really, for all your kids, Ron, and any parent in addiction, the value, just being able to feel that love and have that connection with them again. As I said, first 9 years of my son's life, it's just I don't have memory of it.
Yeah.
And I can't. So now I look at it and go, well, how lucky are we? We're both in recovery.
Yeah.
Like he'll get on and he'll start telling me about how his recovery's going down there. And, and he said, Mum, isn't it funny? Like we were very toxic, very codependent. Like I grew up watching you in addiction. Now we actually communicate.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
priceless little things that recovery gives us.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter and I, when we shared that, what she made me cry about the gift, she said, well, I have a good relationship with my father.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, that got me.
Oh, yeah.
I have an honest relationship with my father, who I respect and look up to.
Yeah.
If he hadn't got clean, I wouldn't be clean. I'm like, well, okay, that was fucking deep.
Yeah.
And your son's in recovery because you're in recovery.
Yeah.
That's the reality,
Yeah.
That's the reality. If we weren't in recovery, our kids wouldn't be in recovery.
Yeah. I can still remember Isaac sitting in he had to go to rehab because, I couldn't let him stay in the house anymore. And
I remember.
I was celebrating my 2-year milestone, and I can still remember. It's funny, those little things you remember. And he was at this meeting with the rehab, and I remember some of my sponsees got up and just my peers, and to congratulate me on my 2 years. And I can remember my son kept looking around, going, "Are they talking about my mother?" Because he'd never seen that mum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, 100%. No, we're blessed, darling. We're blessed, and we are the lucky ones. I really believe that. I believe, we are very lucky. I really appreciate you coming on, Don. I really love having a chat to you. It's been beautiful. I hope that somebody out there gets something out of this, and if you don't, I did, which I appreciate.
And likewise, Ron, as I said, like if we didn't have forums like this, so I really appreciate you asking me on. And for me, like I'm always quite verbal about that dual diagnosis stuff. So if there is anyone out there with dual diagnosis, it is possible that we do live a dual recovery. So
100%.
So yeah, thank you very much for that. No. Love you lots.
Love you lots, Nolan. And any guys and ladies out there that are seeking assistance, look us up on The Truth About Addiction. If I can't help you, I'm sure I can tell someone to guide you in the direction where someone can help you. The message we carry is that you don't have to suffer alone. There is a way out, and it's a horrible thing, this addiction. But just for the grace of God, today we're all clean. Thanks, Nolan.
Thanks, Ron.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.